My name is Tom Work. I have a public relations and marketing firm called Work Communications. I publish a blog called Fermentation, and I'm going to be moderating this panel today on mobile technology and the wine industry. One thing is for sure, and that is this, that the adoption of mobile technology is happening at a dizzying pace. In such a relatively short time, mobile technology has integrated itself into nearly every business we can imagine. It would be surprising for me to learn, for example, that there were not 12-year-olds on the corner selling lemonade this summer and not taking payment through mobile card readers. The question is whether or not they have to deal with compliance issues, and so there's that. The wine industry is being impacted also, and it's going to be impacted even further in the months and years to come when so much of e-commerce sort of migrates to a mobile platform, and we expect that to happen. So the goal of this panel is to have you walk away with a better understanding of how mobile technology is impacting the consumer, and more specifically, how mobile technology is impacting the wine industry, and finally, what you might start to do to take advantage of the migration to mobile. We have three panelists today who will help us understand how the industry is needing to address this issue of mobile technology. And let me introduce them real quick. To my immediate left is Lee Linden. Lee Linden leads Facebook Gifts and Facebook Card. Previously, Lee founded Karma, a mobile commerce platform that allowed smartphone users to instantly send real gifts without a physical mailing address. Karma was acquired by Facebook in 2012 and became the basis for Facebook Gifts. To Lee's left is James Jory. James is CTO of Vintank, sort of a think tank for technology and wine. He's the Chief Technology Officer and responsible for all product development and technological advancements for the company. James plays an integral role in the company's strategic direction, development, and future growth. And finally, we have Paul Smolarkowitz. He is the CTO of Ship Compliant. Paul joined Ship Compliant in 2007, and as its CTO, Paul strategically manages product roadmap, implementation, and client services, process, and tools. He also heads up the company's technology resources and IT growth plans. My job today is simple. I just want to guide a conversation. These folks here are going to tell you what they think you all need to understand and what you think you need to do to address the mobile, sort of the mobile revolution. But what I want to be sure that you all know is this: at any point during this seminar, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, go ahead and ask them at that moment, because we're going to try to make this sort of a dialogue between the audience and the panelists. So if you have something that you need to say that's just, you need to say it, stand up, raise your hand, and go ahead and say it, and we'll recognize you. But before we jump into this, I want to give you all some context with regard to what's happened with mobile technology. Global mobile traffic has increased 70% in 2012. 2012's mobile data traffic was nearly 12 times the size of the entire global internet in 2000, and the average smartphone usage grew 81% in 2012. Mobile internet traffic as a percent of global internet traffic, in May it was 5%, in May 2011 it was 5%, May 2012 10%, May 2013 15%, and by this time next year it'll take up a quarter of all traffic. It's increasing at an enormous rate. What about the iPad versus the iPhone? This is an amazing statistic. In the 12 months after the iPad launched, 50 million iPhones were shipped, but 140 million iPads were shipped, 3 times more than iPhones. What about Facebook and mobile? It's relevant given who we have with us today. I think you may have seen the statistic in the keynote address. 54% increase in mobile users in Q1 2013 for Facebook, and 68% of users access Facebook via mobile technology. Tablets versus computers. In the fourth quarter of 2012, more tablets were shipped than PCs and notebooks combined. This is how we use our time when we have a phone in our hand or a tablet in our hand. These are how many times per day, on average, we do the following things. I've always wondered what other is, but it's way up there.
It's unspeakable. You don't want to know.
Never speak of the other. The future of mobile use. The number of mobile connected devices will exceed the world population this year. Global mobile data traffic will increase 13-fold between now and 2017, 5 years from now. And mobile connected tablets will generate more traffic in 2017 than the entire global mobile network in 2012. Just a little bit of context. And so with that, I want to start this conversation by, putting the question to Lynn. What I want to do is lay down some baselines here. So Lee, I wonder if you would try to characterize for us just how important is the migration to mobile from stationary platforms?
Sure. So I think those statistics speak for themselves. It's quite. It's a step function. It's a change. It's a paradigm shift. And at Facebook, and I mentioned this earlier today, we now get more users accessing Facebook from mobile than they do on desktop, and that's a pretty substantial change in the way we think about things. I think that there are other characteristics about mobile that are worth considering that are different than a desktop user's internet experience. It's one person and one device in most cases. You build personalized experiences per person. The sessions, the way people interact with your service is quite different. So on desktop experiences, people used to access the internet and spend a lot of time accessing, browsing. It was slower. On mobile, people expect these very instantaneous, task-oriented experiences. People, on average, jump into a mobile app and they'll stay there for 60 seconds or less for many apps. That's a very small amount of time. We call these sort of salvaging snippets of time. It's how people use mobile. They have a minute here, a minute there. They'll open an app or a service. They'll start engaging. They'll close it. They'll switch. They'll come back. And that's a very different way about thinking about your users and how you engage with them. You have new ways of notifying users. So mobile devices have push notifications and SMS. You can interrupt people in the middle of the day at certain times of day. You can measure how often they enjoy or connect when you interrupt them. You have people's contacts. Your phone is a communication device first and foremost. So if you give someone content or a product or you give them something to say, they can share it via SMS, via email, via push notification immediately with their friends and family or whoever else right from their phone. You have location. On a device people are moving around. You can customize a service to where they are right at that particular moment, that point in time. And so the way you take these tools and you combine them into a service, each one seems like a minor improvement or change compared to what you might build on a traditional internet service. But all combined, the companies that are doing the most, making the most progress, having the most users, having the most sales on mobile, are combining these into literally brand new experiences that feel supernatural for a device. And so I think it makes sense often when you think about changing your platform and switching into a world where you want to connect to people on their mobile phone to really take a step back and not just try to shove a desktop experience into a mobile phone or not try to take the same use cases and assume they're going to translate, but really think about what these kind of combined set of differences and really devices mean for whatever you want to do to connect with your set of users or fans or members.
So James, then, let me go to you and ask the question, what do we need to understand as to how consumers specifically act differently, whether they're engaging with a mobile device or a stationary device? What are these significant differences that we're seeing in consumer actions and the way they interact?
Well, I would say is looking at the different, just sort of build on what Lee was saying, is build on the use cases of when people are using these different devices. And most often, the first device they go to is the one that is closest to them. And it's either on their belt, in their pocket, or in their purse. And they're going to go there to solve an immediate need, something that they're looking for information, something related to something that maybe they saw on their TV. Is another interesting thing to consider with mobile is most people have multiple devices, and they may be even using them simultaneously. I know I have 3 digital devices here with me today: my smartphone, my tablet, my laptop. And you can, in people's homes, there's a 4th one, which is their TV. So just thinking in terms of, and a lot of you probably have multiple devices here. So think in terms of what mobile means from the devices that we carry, and what the contextual aspects are that are different for each device. Why would I use one device over another? A tablet maybe is more entertainment or my downtime, where my smartphone is maybe I'm looking for some information, immediate. I have an immediate need. Where maybe on my laptop or my desktop, I'm sitting down. I want to spend more time on a particular task. I'm doing maybe some deeper research on something, on a brand, or looking something up on the internet I want to read more about. So the context of how people use different devices is important to know just from the get-go. And then, as Lee was talking, is know who your customers are, and specifically what the context of what they're doing at that moment in time. So me as a wine consumer, when I come to a website, I might be there just to find. You might know me as a customer, but am I there to find the hours? Are you open now? Or am I there to find information about your wines, or information on my wine club membership? The context of what I'm using that device for at that point in time, you need to understand each of those as it pertains to me as an individual customer at that time.
Okay, knowing your customer is an interesting point. So somebody over here addressed this. How have consumers' expectations of the businesses that they interact with changed as a result of mobile technology? Do they expect something different now than they did 10 years ago? And if they do, how are they acting on those different expectations? And which expectations do we need to be aware of that are new? Anyone can feel free.
Well, I'd love to try to answer that question, but that one sounds really tough. I think I can elaborate a little bit more on what Lee and James have said. I think, one of the things I notice about mobile that I think is very interesting to me as a technologist is, in some ways, tablets, for example, are not that fundamentally different in business settings to small laptops. Yet, it almost seems to me that there is almost a socially acceptable usage of tablets and mobile devices that simply doesn't seem natural or doesn't seem okay with a laptop. I think there's a lot of interesting things like that in society. For example, I always trip out on the fact that when we stand in elevators, we somehow know it's weird to face other people. We all stand facing one way. Yet on a subway train, for example, it seems perfectly okay to face other people. And somehow we just generally understand those nuances. And I see the same kind of things happening with technology. For example, a trend that I think you guys are all very aware of is more and more tasting rooms will employ a tablet to do point-of-sale transactions at a table. In theory, technology could have enabled that 3 or 4 years ago before tablets even existed. You could get away with using a small form factor laptop, yet somehow that didn't seem okay. It seems awkward when someone's having a fine meal to put a laptop, which I think is an instrument we generally associate with our workday, on their table. I think it would be offensive. So, it's really interesting to me that just these new form factors allow us to do different things in different contexts. And I'm not sure that actually addresses
just on the question of what's expected of a business in a world where you're connecting via mobile devices. I think the big thing that we look at Facebook and that I notice when I work with other people and companies building mobile services is a responsiveness, right? So if you pull out your phone and you pull it out according to these numbers dozens of times a day, you're not pulling it out to see the same thing. You want updates. Is there a new message? Is there a new product? Was there a new news story? Did the weather change? Did I get a new email? Is there a sale? Right, and so you pull it out for new information every time. That's the whole point. Did someone make a move in Words with Friends? Like, what is the new thing that I'm looking at on my phone? So if you have a service and you're expecting people to engage with you on mobile, you need to consider new information coming at that user on a regular basis, right? So whether that's a blog entry, a picture of your beautiful vineyard, a quote, a cool new varietal that you're announcing, and people, whatever it is, but that's the key difference that I notice is just a responsiveness, more and faster updates.
I'll just add one more bit of information about customer expectations. Is that if you look at the way devices are evolving today, the experiences are becoming more and more personalized. If you saw the iOS 7 demonstration at Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, the operating system is now personalized to you. It reacts to how you customize the phone. When you put a picture as your wallpaper, the colors of the actual operating system and the overlays adapt to that picture, the colors in that picture. So the expectations of our experiences when we work with these devices is a personalized experience that's tailored to me. So think about that from how you deliver your mobile experiences as well, is delivering an experience that is uniquely tailored to that person at that point in time. And customers are expecting that out of their devices. It's actually being delivered today. And when they don't get that with an immediate, quick response, they're going to turn off the phone, or they're going to go away and do something else. So customers are not, it's not just a nice to have. It's something that your customers are going to expect.
We have a question over here, but before we get to the question, I want to ask the folks in the audience: is anyone here frustrated with the expectation of immediate responsiveness on your part? Is anyone frustrated with that yet, that you have to be there when someone calls? Because if you're frustrated now, prepare to stay frustrated, because I think it's just going to get worse. These expectations are growing. Sir?
My question was about social media, Twitter, Facebook, those sorts of things that we have as a winery, about updates daily. There's a confusion, at least with us, about how often we should be updating on Facebook and how often we should be tweeting what's too much, what's not enough. Any opinions on that?
Do you mind if we leave that till the very end? That's sort of a question insofar as there's a few questions with regard to, or there's some issues with regard to mobile technology that we want to get through first before we get to something like that. Is that okay? Any other questions, by the way, that people had? Over here.
Are you expecting at some point in time people to go to their Facebook page, see something from my winery, and go, bam, I want to buy that, push the button and make that happen? Is that the goal that you desire?
Yeah, so look, our goal is to make that as simple and friction-free as possible over in the future.
And I see that as the challenge for me as a person who's processing that, and I'm sure I'm not going to say anything that nobody here is unaware of, is the compliance issues that we have with verifying with age, shipping instructions, where it's going to go. Those are the things that so often have to be taken care of in almost a face-to-face conversation or in some kind of back and forth to get that right, to deliver that wine in the exact way on time when that person expects it. I see that as being probably one of the biggest challenges to moving forward in that mobile world, is having all the pieces that I need to meet all the federal regulations and get it to the person as they expect it.
It's a huge challenge for this industry. So at Facebook, we did partner with Ship Compliance, and we do have a solution today where we can send wine to people from a purchase that happened on Facebook. It's for gifting, and we do compliance checking, we do age and address verification, we do state matching, and if it doesn't work out, we actually cancel the order or offer a different winery. It's both applicable to mobile and desktop, but it is a problem, and we want to make that easier and better. I promise. Yeah.
It's not a negative thing.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that's, that we already almost probably deal with people who have the Amazon experience of, I called you now, is my wine going to be on the porch tomorrow morning? And I don't know if anybody's been able to make that happen.
It's hard. It's very challenging. We do have an experience on Facebook today where you can click. I think we have about 20 wineries where you can click and send wine to a friend, and you don't even have to know their address. We ask the recipient for their age and their address. We use Ship Compliant to verify, and then a third party, whether it's Copper Peak Logistics or even one of their own warehouses, will ship it. It's awesome. I mean,
And it's working well?
it does work. I mean,
Yeah, I'm happy to elaborate a little bit on that. The way it technically works is those orders that originate from a Facebook user suggesting a gift for a friend of theirs on Facebook flows through the Ship Compliant API, and our APIs basically handle all the compliance and all the sales tax collection challenge, the age verification, the routing to fulfillment. That would take place if that order were originating from your own website or from your wine club. And it's all very seamless from the point of view of the gifter and the person receiving the gift. And it's also very seamless for you in the sense that getting this new order stream from Facebook doesn't force you to do any extra work. In fact, those orders flow into your Ship Compliant account. They're included in your reports. You have a vast set of tools available so you can see the performance of that channel compared to your own website or your wine club. So from the technical perspective, I think it's all quite seamless, and I think together we're very proud of what we've been able to do on that front. Statistically speaking, we see that about 98% of orders that flow through that complex set of tubes are found to be compliant. In those situations where the order does have a problem, as Lee mentioned, there is a workflow in place to notify the customer. An area where I think we as an industry all need to invest and adapt to the mobile revolution is, as you mentioned, is just gaining parity with consumers' expectations. Again, the innovators in the e-commerce space outside of our industry are kind of setting the norm for us, like the Zappos experience, the Amazon Prime experience. That's where the bar is being set, and that's what consumers are learning to call average or acceptable, and that's what they demand of us as well. We've done, I think, a good job of obfuscating the complexity that regulation introduces into our industry. The challenge with that now is the consumers don't know the challenges we've solved, and they still expect that 1 or 2 day delivery, and we know that there still are fulfillment challenges that are unique to our industry as well. But from a technology side, again, I think Lee and myself representing 2 companies that have actually achieved this, and it is possible today, and we hope it to continue to grow that community, to provide you guys with more and more opportunities to engage with advertisers. I'm lumping Facebook into that bucket of advertiser, but our goal is to allow you to engage with advertisers that whose core competency is being successful in a world post-mobile revolution and beyond.
Quick question for the audience. How many of you are responsible for monitoring your company's website? How many of you monitor the statistics behind your website? How many of you have noticed over the past year an increase in the number of mobile users accessing your website? Okay. With that in mind, I want to ask the panel this. There are a number of different ways that any business can set themselves up for success in addressing the migration to mobile. For example, some companies will build their own apps. Some companies will simply sort of rejigger their own website that exists now to make it more mobile friendly. Let's talk about the very basic things that a winery in particular can do to address the increase of mobile users accessing their information on the web. And I guess I'll start with James.
Well, typically, the first step that that we see most wineries take is to design a mobile-friendly version of their site, or to use what's most common today is something called responsive design, which you have a single design that can adapt itself to the device that's currently viewing the site. So the navigation changes from things being laid out horizontally, say on a laptop or a desktop. And when you shrink, you can see if a website is using an adaptive design or responsive design. When you shrink your browser down and make it more vertically oriented, like a phone would be or a tablet, that the navigation changes. Things that were horizontally laid out become vertically laid out. Navigation collapses. Images change in size. They can adapt to size. So that's typically, the minimal sort of the entry level to a winery website.
James, should every winery be doing that?
Well, if I was starting today, I would build a mobile site and then think about a desktop second. I mean that
You would think about a desktop site second after you built your mobile site?
Well, I would work towards the mobile user experience and solve the context of a mobile experience first, because that's the more important way that people there's more mobile devices than desktop devices being in use and being purchased today. So, which are you going to adapt to? Are you going to have a desktop site that morphs into a mobile-ish sort of site? Mm-hmm. Or are you going to have a great mobile experience that can adapt to a desktop experience? I mean, where are your users going to be interacting with your website most often? And what are the most important use cases you're trying to solve, right? So that's as a technologist point of view, that's the way I think. But it doesn't mean that you can't. You also need to think about the different devices, as I was mentioning earlier, as people are using multiple devices. So Google did a great study, I think it was last year, where they studied how people use devices. And the number of commerce transactions that begin on a mobile device and completed on desktop for shopping experiences, that was the most common transition from a sequential device use case. So when you look at the metrics, how much are we really selling on our mobile website, and you're using that as a benchmark of success, it's really the wrong way to look at it. What you need to be tracking is how many of those experiences went from your mobile experience and actually completed on your desktop experience, right? And how are you handing that off between the two experiences for the same person? Can they save their shopping cart? Can they email the cart to them so that they can pull it up on their desktop, load that cart in their desktop experience, and complete the purchase at that point? So it's really it's a view across all different devices and unifying those experiences and finding out ways to transfer the user between those experiences.
I want to come back to this question and examine it more, but there was a question from Bill Tomaszewski back here.
Yeah, quick question in the comment. One, with mobile devices, I might have missed this, but are you including tablets as a mobile device?
Well, yes. Tablets you can make a desktop site work reasonably well in a tablet experience. A smartphone, just because of the screen size, it's just they're both touch experiences between tablet and smartphones, but the screen size is really what drives need to having a different user experience. But I think it is important when we talk about mobile to not get hung up on or to think purely in terms of these screens that we have with smartphones, tablets, and laptops, but to think in terms of wearable computing, right? What does mobile mean in a larger sense? Google Glass, right? So and it's our cars. These are all mobile things. We're talking through Google Glass. You're actually talking to the device. People are talking to their phone, to their cars, right? Asking them for directions to things or to pull up information. The Fitbit, with fitness. There's also wearable computing and sensors. All of these contribute to mobile and contribute, context to the user experience. And a nice quote from the keynote that I thought really touched on this well is the measure of success is to kind of turn the quote backwards that he had from Albert Einstein, I think, was the key is to find where information is and how to use it. And the information is coming from all of these different sensors and all these different contextual elements that it's how we turn that into a successful mobile experience.
Quick comment on data mining. Wine.com just did some analysis of our mobile traffic and our desktop traffic. And we found out that our mobile traffic started peaking on Friday after work, peaked Saturday night at dinner, and then slowly went back down again. And we noticed our desktop traffic went down over the weekend and stayed kind of level during the week. And we realized that people are using our mobile app when they're going out to dinner, or maybe when they're going out to buy wine at a store, and they're using our mobile app just for information. And so that's the big thing we're trying to figure out, is how to monetize our mobile app, because we're seeing these trends, and it's probably the same with a lot of your mobile apps too, or is that it might go up at dinner time and on weekends when people are out and about really using their mobile devices.
The other thing, of course, is they're not at their desks at work on the weekend. There's that. But you bring up a good point, Bill, and that is the issue of the mobile app. Anyone who's visited the Apple App Store will notice that it's not just Angry Birds out there, but there are a number of companies who are building their own apps to interact with customers. So then my question to Lee is this. What's your opinion of a winery creating their own app that can be downloaded that would allow customers and clients and others to interact with the winery specifically through a dedicated winery-built app, as opposed to simply reconfiguring your website?
So, it's people get excited about mobile apps today. I think at the Apple conference earlier this week, there was announced that it was 900,000 mobile apps for the iPhone. That's a lot of apps, right? And the discovery of those apps is really hard. So in general, I don't recommend every winery go out and build a custom mobile app. I think, first of all, it's very hard to build apps that are high quality. You have to keep them up to date. Devices change every year right now. It's a super high pace of innovation. Like screen sizes change, new features change. And that's a lot of work. And I think unless you're maybe one of the top 5 wineries or groups of wineries, and you have just such a huge audience and dedicated resources that can build that and maintain it, it's probably not the best bang for your buck. However, there are companies out there that have pretty innovative solutions for businesses that have a really active user base. One of my favorites is a company called Mobile Roadie. Has anyone heard of Mobile Roadie? You have? Okay, awesome. Have you used it? Okay, cool. So Mobile Roadie is a company, and I'm not affiliated with them. I just know them, and I know a lot of their customers. They build applications for NFL teams and musicians and clubs, and they're really high quality across iPhone, Android, even tablets. And they let you effectively take an audience. So this might be applicable if you have an awesome, high engaged club for your winery. You can take your members and put them onto Mobile Roadie, and you can use all those tools I mentioned earlier. You can send them push notifications, updates. You can even let them make purchases. You can let them share take pictures. So using another service to help you keep up to date with an active, engaged audience. And they skin it and brand it. It looks like your winery app. You get an app out of the box. So those services, I think, could be helpful. And then the other thing I'll say here is that, I don't think most of the wineries here are going to compete on an e-commerce experience with really great retailers who have really awesome mobile experiences. But if you can work with the great retailers that are building amazing mobile experiences, whether it's fab.com or Gilt or maybe wine.com or Amazon, if you can have your wine available in these different channels, I think that's where users are going to be making a lot of the purchases, are on the retailers who are building amazing mobile experiences. And getting your product into those experiences is the second way that you engage with users on mobile. Maybe not your own app, but you're making your product available through the companies that have 30 engineers building an amazing set of apps every single day. Yeah.
Question right here.
On a related note, going back to the relationship between Facebook and Shift and Client, the fact that you guys have that all kind of streamlined, functioning with gifting, do you have any plans to take it to a non-gifting functionality, particularly for Shift and Client who have active Facebook users, and that could potentially be a marketplace on Facebook for us?
Sure. So today on your mobile phone, you can send a gift of wine to somebody. I think the question is, why can't I buy wine for myself? Why can't I do a story and have it show up in all of my fans' news feeds on Facebook and let them buy a bottle or a case or a subscription with one click? That would be kind of fun, right? Today, we're not there just yet. You can create a story and promote it to a group of people. One of the things I bet no one in this room knows is that Facebook has a new feature called a custom audience. So who here has a mailing list of email addresses for their best customers? Awesome. So you can actually, this is new, as of literally a few months ago, you can go and upload your email addresses to Facebook. We will find all of those people on Facebook, let you create a custom audience, My Winery's fans. It can be updated every day. And then you can target those people with a story that will show up on their mobile phone newsfeed. Does that make sense? And today, that story can link off to your mobile website where you can make a purchase happen. In the future, it'd be pretty great. I agree if we can make them purchase right then and there. But it's definitely progress. Yeah, it's available for any advertiser. So there's two different ways to slice it. If you have a page and your page has fans, people who've liked your page, then it's automatic. You can automatically send a message or a story to the people who've liked you. In fact, you can promote it and have it show up at the top of their newsfeed if you're willing to pay a little bit of money. Email addressing, that's a second way you can create an audience. You sign up as a Facebook advertiser. I think it's facebook.com/advertising. And you create, it's a new tool. You can create a custom audience by, as I mentioned, uploading a set of email addresses.
Listen, what you're doing is talking about addressing people in the context that they want to be addressed in.
Yeah. Well, of course you can email them, but this is something where we know people are engaging on Facebook every day, about 25% of their time on mobile. And yes, you can pick the time of day, who it goes out to. We'll help you track. We'll tell you that this demographic, it turns out just men were clicking, right? Or women between 24 and 38 in these 10 cities. So yeah, we can help you get context, get measurability, and reach these people through it's a different channel. There's email, and we think of ourselves as a different channel.
It's apropos that you brought that up, because one of the things that Vintank has done and focused on over the past, at least a couple different years, is understanding visitors to wine country or allowing wineries to understand their customers in context. And this all wraps around the issue of how winery visitors use their mobile technology while in wine country. And you guys have thought a lot about how wineries can reach out to these folks. So tell us a little bit about how you've thought about the process by which wineries can reach out to visitors to wine country who are already here or thinking about coming here?
Well, this is new technology of ours that we've just launched this week, and it involves, and we've launched it specifically to start in Napa. We're going to be rolling it out to other regions, but we've basically built a geofence around Napa, where we're geographically listening to any conversation that's geotagged in the valley, and looking at the context around who that person is.
Explain geotagged.
Geotag is when you post a tweet, you have the option to attach your location to the tweet, and I think you can even put that on your profile, so every tweet that you send has it automatic, or you could do it on a tweet by tweet basis. And obviously, if you check in on Foursquare or you post a picture on Instagram, you have the option to geotag the picture as well. So we're looking at all the publicly available information that's geotagged that fits within our fence. We're raising that within our application as a point of context to our clients to be able to see who's in the area. And because of our the listening side of our system, we also know what each person has said about wine in the past. So that adds to the full picture of who that customer is. How often have they visited wine country? What kind of wines do they like? And when they talk about wine, how sophisticated is the language they use when they talk about wine, which would give you an idea of where they are kind of in their wine appreciation arc. So that's, if I had to kind of summarize what our platform is, we're a context engine, and we're constantly in search of context to know more and more about people that are talking about wine or interacting with wine in any way.
But what's the import of somebody who's up on Silverado Trail in a winery being able to see who's in the valley? How is that actionable?
Well, we're also working with restaurants in the valley as well to because the synergy obviously between food and wine is very strong. But the opportunities, we're presenting the opportunities to our winery clients to act on that information, and it can take many forms. It could be to know that one of your wine club members is in the valley, celebrating maybe an anniversary because of the things that they're sharing socially. Maybe they had dinner at a restaurant last night, celebrating an anniversary or birthday, something like that. That's an opportunity for you to reach out and engage with them. Maybe they're not a customer, and their wine profile, the kind of wines they like, matches up with the kind of wines that you sell, or they like wines of your competitors. That's an opportunity for you to engage and have something to say. But it's not all about 50% off your tasting fee if you come by. It's not all about pushing. Each channel has a different style of how you should engage with customers, and this touches a little bit on your question from earlier is, and how you engage with each person is different, and it's not unlike having a conversation with somebody face to face. You need to take them on a case by case basis, but the opportunity is there for you to connect to people that you wouldn't ordinarily know that they were even in your neighborhood, and so just bringing that information to the surface and putting it in front of you as an opportunity is what we're doing.
So this is essentially a much more sophisticated way of following maybe hashtag Napa Valley on your TweetDeck or in Twitter, and seeing who's in Napa Valley, who's tweeting about being in Napa Valley, and then hopefully in a sophisticated way reaching out to them and maybe inviting them to the tasting room or the winery. That's what we're talking about here, isn't it?
Exactly. It's much more sophisticated than that, and it's also looking at predictive and analyzing conversations with people who are not here yet, that are planning trips, or talking about going to Napa Valley. Those kind of things. It gives you an opportunity to catch them before they get here, and make an impression.
Let me get to your question in a second. How many people here are responsible for hospitality at a winery in one way or another? Have you ever followed the information flow on Twitter or on Facebook, seen who is coming to Napa Valley that you may not know and reached out to them? Anyone ever done that? Has it been successful to any of you who have done it? They've come to the winery? Would you want to convince others in your peers to do this on a regular basis? Because it works or because it doesn't work? Because it is working. Okay, there's a question right here, the gentleman in the blue.
I was just wondering, is this part of the entry-level
Our listening, our free platform is listening only for social media mentions of your brand, or really anything that you set the platform up to do. The geofencing and allowing you to manage your social media platforms, we call them, so your Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Foursquare, through the platform is our first tier up, the light tier. So, and the geofencing specifically is on our brand new platform, and we've just soft launched that to 25 of our clients this week. We'll be rolling it out to everyone else in the coming weeks.
There was a question back here. Someone had their hand raised. Okay, gentleman over here in the back.
Well, someone who has posted on Twitter celebrating our 15th year anniversary at Bottega. What's their privacy? What's their expectation of privacy? Thank you. When they do that, and when people say things on specifically on Twitter, each channel is different. Like I said, how you would react to posts on Facebook versus Twitter versus Instagram are totally different on a case-by-case basis. But it's come to the point of in customer expectations, and I had an experience like this recently when I didn't mention a brand by name. I actually included their Twitter handle in a tweet that I sent when I received a wine club shipment, and I've been a member there for over 20 years. My expectation was that I would get a reaction from them, and I did not. And what I got was a retweet from somebody, a Mendocino. I won't name the winery, but I know everyone here would know who it is. But someone retweeted it from Mendocino like 30 minutes later, but I still haven't heard from that winery. And so you think about Twitter is if you're talking about a brand or some sort of experience, and you're in the valley for the weekend to taste, and a winery reaches out and says, "Hey, happy anniversary! We'd love to see you and have you do a tour at our winery and just make it personal and not a cold sell." Then you're going to find that customers will respond to that. And if you're not doing it the right way, you're going to get slapped in the forehead, and you'll stop doing that, right? So it's definitely trial and error. But I think anything that people have put out there and are sharing publicly, their expectation of privacy, I think, they're putting it out there for a reason to share with people. And on open networks like Twitter, I think, it's kind of the Wild West out there. And you can do things and go too far, or you can have some amazing customer experiences and create customers for a lifetime.
Do you disagree?
I think there's a fine line to walk. I personally would not want to have somebody from a winery that I didn't mention come to me and say happy anniversary if I have no relationship with that winery.
What about a winery that did know it was your anniversary, reach out to you via? No, I guess what I'm asking is, what would be your response to that if via mobile technology, via a tweet or a Facebook post, a winery that you'd interacted with in the past actually independently reached out to you and said, happy anniversary?
Again, I've got a relationship on file.
That's a good thing though, right?
I do not have a relationship with someone.
Gotcha.
Then I don't know if Twitter's really, that's kind of Twitter is open.
Not necessarily. You could do a direct message.
Well, only if they're following you, right?
True. That's true.
But I think on Twitter, if you're saying something publicly and you're not using a protected profile, and you say something and somebody engages with you, that's kind of the expected behavior.
I would agree.
On other platforms, it may be different, but that's why I said you need to take each on a case-by-case basis. But if there's no hard sell or expectation, someone's just wishing you a happy anniversary. For me, that doesn't really.
There was a question here.
Yes,
Yeah.
for James. I'm Kathy. I'm from Clodoval Winery. Have you noticed, or in your experience, maybe for all of you, I'm a huge fan of technology, but this is a business where it's a lot of, this is how I've always done things. I'm going to do it with paper. I mention the word mobile and their eyes roll back. They don't understand the technology, so they're not taking that step. Have you noticed with the wineries that you're dealing with that it's taken a while? It's that evolution. We've been in the valley for 40 years, and I'm just able to get them to accept a tablet in the tasting room. so I don't have to have the customer fill out the little form, which we then have to enter in, the customer form. So have you noticed that it's a hard sell?
Well, we've been focusing hard on the social media aspects of it and getting the wine industry to adopt social media as another communication channel and talking with their customers. And we've seen a tremendous, the wine industry's come a long way. It has a long way to go, but when we first started, there were very few wineries that had anybody that even was responsible for social media. Or it was, well, it's the intern who's good with computers, right? And they're basically giving the responsibility of their brand on all these networks over to an intern, right? Just because they're good with computers. Well, now we're finding that wineries actually have dedicated staff and sometimes teams. And that's an indication of recognizing that how important these channels are. Mobile, the adoption of mobile is also, encouraging. But that doesn't, you're adopting technology and using all this information doesn't mean you have to have tablets and everyone carrying around smartphones. And it's using the information in those channels in the ways that your customers want to communicate with you. You can't force that, just like you can't control your brand on social media and your brand message, right? You can't control how your customers want to interact with you. And one of the stats from some of these studies shows that boomers are actually the fastest growing adopters of smart digital technology, right? The younger millennials and Gen X, it's a done deal. It's part of their DNA, right? But boomers are actually adopting it at the quickest rate of any demographic. I don't know if Lee has some anecdotal information on that as well, but.
There was a question down here, gentleman in the red shirt. Not so much? Okay. One of the things we heard about at the keynote address from Jason was the new mobile app from Ship Compliant. And I wanted to make sure that we talked a little bit about that. So Paul, tell us a little bit more about the Ship Compliant mobile app and what your client's going to be able to do with it.
Sure. So there's really two halves to Ship Compliance mobile strategy. I think the primary topic here really relates to Ship Compliant as a software as a service provider. Our goal in that is to continue to enable rapid innovation, to allow companies like Facebook and others who have adopted our marketplace platform to work with you and allow us to continue to solve the problems that I spoke to earlier that you guys know Ship Compliant for. So we're going to continue to do that, and it's going to continue to empower you to work with third-party providers that allow you guys to maximize the capabilities that this mobile revolution provides. The other aspect of our mobile strategy, which we heard from you guys as business users of the Ship Compliant portal, is to recognize that there is information in Ship Compliant that you guys would like to be able to access, and even functions that you do within Ship Compliant that you'd like to be able to do when you're away from your desk, away from your computer, be it from a tablet or your phone. We're listening loud and clear, and we're also measuring. To date, less than 3% of visits to Ship Compliant originate from a mobile device. Now that's very contrary to the general consumer statistics that have been presented. And of those 3% of visits, most visits end at the login screen. Again, no surprise there. Ship Compliant is usable from a tablet, but I wouldn't say it's convenient. So it doesn't surprise me that most of you that try it say, it's hard to use, and abandon the experience there. Our principal strategy on enabling mobile capability for you as business users is to focus on specific tasks. As Jason mentioned, we've launched first iteration of that experience that allows you to quickly and hopefully easily look up individual order details housed within Ship Compliant. In my opinion, an equally important feature of this launch, although not very technically advanced, is the ability for you guys to tell us in a perfect world, what would you like to be doing from your phone or from your tablet with Ship Compliant? And we're dedicated to listening and moving as quickly as we can to enable those workflows for you. I think it's, in a sense, a brave new world. We know that only 3% of you, actually far less, have even attempted anything in Ship Compliant from a mobile device. So I think we'll learn together on what are the workflows, what are the tasks that we can enable that make the most sense. Because the way I see it is, even though the information in Ship Compliant is one and the same, the way we'll interact with it on mobile is going to be different than the way we interact with that same information on desktop. I'm an email user. I assume most of you are. I use email completely different when I'm sitting at my desk versus when I'm reading it on my phone. Same data, in theory, the same capabilities, but my habits end up being completely different. And I view our strategy for Ship Compliant much in the same way.
Any questions? I want to take a quick couple questions of the audience. How many of you in the audience have made the effort to convert your stationary desktop website, as it were, into a mobile website? How many have gone ahead and absolutely done it? How many have not done it but are planning to do it? Okay. Question: Do all mobile native website platforms, do they all have e-commerce, and should they all include the ability to transact in a mobile environment?
I can take a stab at that. I know we're short on time, so I'll try to go quickly. I mean, I think absolutely the mobile screen is the primary screen for users already. So I think your website should focus on making the checkout experience from a mobile device not only possible but easy. I would go as far as to suggest that the next time you redesign your site, or if you're considering a site redesign, I'm sure you're going to do some testing of that before it launches. Test first on a mobile device and ask yourself, is the checkout experience easy? There's probably low-hanging fruit there. Things as simple as making sure links are big enough that you can actually click them, that enough information is present. And also think about the actual checkout experience. For me personally, one of the barriers for actually buying anything on my phone is entering my shipping information, my credit card information. I love browsing it. I love getting as far as the cart, but it's just awkward to type all that in. There may be opportunities as simple as just allowing your cart to be saved and then emailing that user that, hey, you have an uncompleted cart that they can complete when they do get back to their desktop that could reap rewards. It may not. The other suggestion I have for you guys is make sure you're measuring. There are tools already available to you. Make sure you understand how many people are visiting your site from mobile devices and where are they abandoning the checkout process, and differentiate those measurements by screen size as well. A phone is not the same as a tablet.
Yeah, I think it's a challenge on mobile. A lot of the clients, customers, e-commerce companies I work with have much higher drop-off rates on mobile web for e-commerce than on desktop. It's hard to enter this information. We're interested in solving these problems at Facebook. Unfortunately, the iOS and Android platforms, the payments that are built in to buy digital goods can't be used to buy physical goods today. So if you're building a native app or you're using a native app, unfortunately, that's a challenge. I just want to reiterate my earlier point. I really believe that the great e-commerce companies that are building services for mobile will keep getting better, and there will be more of them. And I would love, and I would encourage the people in this room, if you have a winery and you have wine, try to get your product onto one of these great platforms. All right, try to find the great e-commerce services that are building amazing mobile experiences that have tens of millions of credit cards on file, that have people's addresses, that are making this process easier, and try to find ways to have your product be sold through these other channels. I think that's the best use of the energy of the people in this room. You make amazing wine. That's what you do. Work with the companies that have amazing mobile apps and try to get your wine through those channels.
Just quickly elaborate on that. Those great retail companies are not going to be familiar oftentimes with the challenges that are unique to our industry around regulation. You know, Ship Compliant is also working with those great retailers on your behalf to create integrations like we've discussed, which we have with Facebook and about a dozen other advertisers to make that easy. But you know, your role in this is also, as you engage these companies, make sure that you express clearly how important and unique the regulations in the space are, because they're simply not familiar with those challenges that we deal with every day.
I have some announcements to make before we break here, and before I do that, I have one more query I want to ask the audience, but I also have one more question that we can take. This gentleman here.
I just want to know in regards to, though, we just talked about retail, and that's to say that it's the retail aspect mostly that mobile technology is going to be the most beneficial rather than say direct to consumer. It's more limited in regards to direct to consumer because the limitations on apps and mobile technology.
Yeah, so it's going to be a lot harder to build a world-class experience. I think if you have an engaged club or an existing audience and it's large enough, it might make sense to go out and build something. It depends on kind of a business by business decision. I do think the great e-commerce companies that can work with Ship Compliant and add themselves to this marketplace will be a much higher percentage of the volume. That's where I'm coming from. So I would encourage folks to be a part of that.
And I think we use the term retail or retailer or retail in this context somewhat loosely. You know, really those providers are operating as an advertiser for you more than a retailer.
Yeah, I just had a quick Facebook question. I saw that you guys are going to begin using hashtagging. How is that going to be integrated, and if you had any advice for us in optimizing that?
Yeah, so that's brand new. So kudos for being super savvy. We just launched our own version of hashtag. It uses existing kind of nomenclature. You can do a personal post, or you can do a company, sort of a page post that includes a hashtag. And you can even go and look at public posts or posts from friends that include those tags. So it's similar to how you've used hashtags on Instagram or on Twitter, perhaps, except there's the same privacy restrictions that are on Facebook also pertain to these posts. So you won't be able to search hashtags from private posts of other individuals. But I think you treat them the same way. You want to have the consistent hashtag across any channel, and I think they're valuable to use. And as more people kind of get used to them on Facebook, you'll see more discovery happening, and we'll start grouping posts based on the tag, et cetera.
Seeing no more questions, then I have a few announcements before we break. The first is all of you have feedback surveys. Probably under your bottom at the moment. If you could fill those out and leave them with us, it would help us tremendously. The lunch buffet is on the patio. There are actually 2 stations on the patio. There's one inside. Please help yourself. But keep in mind there is a 1:30 keynote address that we hope you'll all be at. So we've got about an hour to enjoy the lunch that Ship Compliant has provided. And don't forget to have your exhibitor passports stamped so you can have a shot at that Kindle Fire and learn more about who the exhibitors are. I want to thank the panelists, Lee, everyone, Paul, and Mr. Jory. Thank you very, very much, and thank you all very much for being here.